Hello guys, we are live tonight on Carnivore Team GB live Q&A session number 18. Myself, Phil, Ben, Lee, and the Keto Pro, Richard Smith. So just to start up, what is going on very shortly, Phil and Ben? Ben, Lee, and Keto Pro, Richard Smith.
Okay, some feedback there off somebody. What is happening very shortly? War on Health 2 in just over a couple of weeks at the end of March over Easter weekend. And it's not just going to be me and Phil, but you're going to get Richard speaking there and Stephen and a bunch of other people because we're now doing it over 2 days. So if you want to find out why, a bit more about why the world and specifically the world of so-called healthcare is not actually set up to care for your health or in the interests of your health. And then secondly, what you can do about it, other than obviously eating a good diet, which is the biggest step we can all take. Come along and hang out and meet another, a bunch of other freaks, and realize that you're not the only one. Because
there's more than one freak here.
Yeah, it was awesome in January. Absolutely fantastic. So we're going to have a bunch of other people. Dr. Sarah Pugh is going to be there. Dr. Ahmed Malik is going to be there. Dr. Javier Clemens from Paleo Medicina is joining us via Zoom. And Andrew Scarborough as well, talking about how what life's been like since he apparently died 11 years ago. So it's going to be brilliant. So it's over 2 days. We've got lots more food, lots more variety. We've got more breaks, more Q&As, and also a bonus session on the Friday as well for anyone who can make it on the Friday. So if you're free, or if you've got an appointment with to go and see family that you don't like, then this is a wonderful excuse to get out of that.
Sounds right to me.
We should put the link up.
Yeah, I think Ben's covered everything there, but I can't wait. And after all these past few years of being anti-socially distanced and all that sort of thing, it's time to get together and have a hug. And this is not being recorded, so
not streamed. It's not being streamed, so there's only one way to hear what's going on.
All the speakers can be completely uncensored, so get there and check it out and meet a load of amazing like-minded people.
Absolutely. Yeah, unfortunately I can't go to that one, but I would very much like to go to the next one, which would be quite exciting. But anyone that's watching this now, I will be at the Public Health Collaboration in the UK, along with Richard and maybe Lee, maybe not. And I think Stephen will also be here as well, Coach Stephen, at that conference. That's in May, I think, or I hope. Anyway, we're going to look for the questions, guys, now. So if you've got any questions, please leave a queue in the chat for them so I can easily spot them. And yeah, please do hit the like button upon entry. It's very helpful to us. This is like a free Q&A mini soft coaching session, you might call it. So if you've got any questions for us, feel free to ask them now. Do you guys have anything else to say, like Richard or Lee, perhaps, what's coming up on your channels?
Go on, Lee. After you, man.
I'm still just trying to figure out what I've done wrong here. I'm trying to get it onto my other account. It's just for some reason launched this old account that I've forgotten about. So I'm going to just try and tend to that so I can get it over on my channel.
There we are. No worries. I'll jump on something for 2 seconds. And Stephen and I released a podcast or recording that we've been working on over the last couple of weeks. It's only 35 minutes long. Incredibly easy to understand, and for anybody that listens to me on a regular basis, they'll know that I like to talk incredibly quick and confuse a lot of people. I've slowed things right down for this one. It's going to be a highly controversial video, I believe, although so far so good. The views are coming in thick and fast, and the comments have all been positive. I've titled it "A Vegan Lifestyle Causes 21 Times More Animal Deaths." So yeah, highly controversial, but all heavily evidence-based, as you'd expect from the stuff that I give you guys. Take a look, watch it. There's a lot of interesting facts in there that I think will shock an awful lot of people because we live an animal-based lifestyle. I think a lot of people think that we don't like animals. and quite the opposite. In fact, I think it's safe to say that every one of us on this panel is probably an animal lover. I care for animals and the planet and myself dearly, and this is why I am a carnivore, because it is the healthiest way to live. It's the best way to look after the environment and the planet, and it causes less deaths to animals than living a vegan lifestyle. So if you want a bit of controversy, jump on there and take a look at that.
Nice one. Yeah, I've got for about 4 or 5 minutes of that one already, but then I had a nap, so guilty as charged. I'm going to watch that one. It is on my playlist, guys. What you can actually do is, if you want to support us, you got all this free time, you're at work, whatever, you got your phone to the side, you can make a playlist of all our content, put it out and repeat, basically. It does seem to help the algorithm, and it does actually count as one view. But if you're still playing it over and over again, you put it to your download list, it actually seems to support that video. So that's a little top tip if anyone happens to like our stuff. I know my stuff's on a few different people's playlists. That's pretty cool. But just the link here, by the way, guys, is what Ben and Phil alluded to earlier. So that's the bigfatchallenge.com/events, which is the health event, the health conference event coming up very soon. All the details will be in that web link. Now I've got a couple of questions lined up, so I'm just going to quickly highlight them. Please leave a queue for the questions. First one's from Gaza, channel member of mine. Thank you for joining. Do any of you absolute legends feel iodine is needed, exogenous like Lugol's, for good thyroid health on the Vor? We'll ask you, Phil. Phil, what's your take on this one? I know you've spoken quite a bit about this one before.
Nominate Phil.
Phil, to the box.
Cool. Yeah. Okay. Well, I think, ancestrally, we would have eaten a diet that gave enough iodine, didn't give any of the anti-nutrients that stop the uptake of it. And if we did get issues with the thyroid, we knew what to do. People would apparently come down from the high ground and go to the coast and eat a load of seaweed and get rid of their goiters. But I think it's one of those few supplements that are very useful now and again if you know what you're doing with it. I don't think it's a problem for anybody to take it, really. A little bit now and again, no problem. Lugol's iodine, I don't think it messes about with gut integrity, any of that sort of thing. But there's a whole load of controversy out there about the thyroid issues, whether it's Hashimoto's or Graves'. And I have a lot of experience with this because my missus has Graves', which is hyperthyroidism rather than hypothyroidism, and Hashimoto's being hypo. And that seems to be a lot easier to fix with a good carnivore diet, maybe some iodine, even though they tell you not to take it. But Graves', they tell you iodine's going to kill you immediately. In the old Merck manuals, and huge sort of mega doses of iodine was the cure for thyroid storm. And so why on earth iodine as a supplement would put you into thyroid storm is a mystery to me. So we were told that by the endocrinologist, and it gave us a load of fear for about a year. It took us even that long to, after I'd woken up about the rest of the nonsense, it took us that long to get the confidence to give my missus mega doses of iodine, proper mega doses. And within a week, thyroid hormones were normal. So I think anything you've been told about iodine being dangerous for the thyroid is bullshit, because the body will generally excrete what it doesn't need. And there's also a video on my channel, on my YouTube channel, just Phil Escott or whatever, but it's shadow banned because they don't like cancer reversals. So there's a video about my mum's breast cancer reversing on a carnivore diet, and she was 93 at the time. So on a carnivore diet plus Lugol's iodine protocol, and her breast cancer just really completely reversed. So that's difficult to find. You have to put pretty much every single word in. I think if you put in carnivore diet, breast cancer reversal, shocking pick warning or something like that, then it comes up. But I don't think it's absolutely necessary. But if you've got some kind of thyroid issue or some kind of hormonal issue, particularly as a woman, a lot of these breast cancers are hormonally driven. It was just intuition for me back in the day. I don't know, 2017, something like that. And I just got this idea because I'd heard from Jack Cruz and other people, if you take Lugol's iodine, then it can take away fibrocystic breast syndrome. You can just kind of paint it on the breasts and pretty much, and they can start to shrink if it's just a fibrocystic issue. And then I sort of had this idea, maybe if it's hormonal, it might work on breast cancer. And well, it did. So, but since then I've learned a lot more about dosage and whatever. So is it necessary for everybody? Probably not. A couple of drops a day, probably not an issue for anybody. I know Ben's taken it. Right. Anybody else got any thoughts?
Seems to be all right. Some people use it, some people don't. Hit and miss. That's my take on it, in effect. Richard, would you say towards iodine?
Yeah, look, I tend to agree with what Phil was saying in regards to, I think it's more to do with an issue of other compounds that we consume. So sulforaphane and other isothiocyanates, they can cause, as Phil just said, goitrogens, but they compete for absorption of the thyroid with iodine, and it can lead to a defect or a deficiency. But again, these compounds, and I know we've come back to it a couple of times in the past, they activate an oxidative stress pathway called the NRF2 pathway, which is a transcription factor that's activated when it senses this oxidative stress. So they contain all sorts of nasty compounds, polyphenols, flavonoids, which are a group of polyphenols, isoflavones, which are digestive inhibitors. They block the absorption of vitamin C, which causes a reduction in net protein utilization, infertility in men, endocrine issues in women. It blocks thyroid peroxidase, which we need to make thyroid hormone. But I think cutting the plants usually sees a shift towards not needing a requirement to supplement with iodine, especially if we're consuming foods that contain iodine. Chicken, tuna, what else is there? Things like king prawns, beef liver, sea kelp, all these sorts of things. So I think for me, it's more to do with the removal of the compounds that are blocking the body's ability, these digestive inhibitors, these flavonoids, the isoflavones that are blocking our body's ability to absorb these compounds. Once we remove them, I think the requirement for supplementation is reduced. But again, I'm not against supplementation. I own a supplement business, so I'm certainly not against supplementation. But I do find that when we remove most of these offending compounds, the requirement to do so with iodine especially is reduced.
Fair, yeah. If you're drinking fluoridated water as well, it's a problem.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, all the halides.
Toothpaste.
Yeah, halides, definitely. Does anybody mind if I deal with a vegan troll?
Do it.
We've got Ray Sleever, who I've encountered a few times over the years. He says,
that sounds like a nice bloke.
Yeah, well, he or she or whatever. Only 5 confused apes who think they're lions in the live today. Lever, Mr. Lever, or Ms. Lever. Only 5 confused apes. Apes doesn't need to be capitalized. Now, the punctuation here on today, there are 3 question marks. That's not necessary. There's a capitalization needed after the 3 dots here. Get one more pretend kitty cat and make it a 6-pack, boys. So, Mr. Lever, Ms. Lever, probably depending on how much soy you've eaten. So I've been carnivore for 9 years. I've eaten nothing but meat. If you gave a gorilla nothing but meat for 9 years, well, you wouldn't, because it would be dead after a couple of months. How can you possibly argue with that? I suppose your next argument is I'm lying. So off you go, study human physiology and perhaps punctuation. And we shall look forward to your future comments.
Can you imagine what I'd look like if I had the digestive system of an ape?
Yes. Are you a hindgut fermenter?
You can't.
Yeah, exactly.
You can't because your rib.
My ribs won't let me.
Your rib cage is too narrow. Gorilla's rib cage is a triangular shape to allow for this giant gut, and the pelvises are too wide that I can put my hands on. Pelvises are like that. So what this they are saying is that to say that you're a carnivore means that you're saying you're a lion, which is a logical fallacy. That just doesn't even make sense. Yes, we don't have teeth like lions. We are apes, right? And we are carnivore. I don't know why this gets so complicated. Phil and I did a really interesting video takedown of the old teeth vegan meme, which was a whole heap of fun. But it comes down to, these very often things. Well, you don't have claws. No, we're apes. Apes don't have claws. Your jaw can go like that. Yes, we, according to anthropology, we evolved from apes. Now, nearly every other primate is a frugivore, herbivore, omnivore, right? There's only one other purely carnivorous one, which is a little kind of marmoset kind of thing that eats insects or something like that. But there's no question about it. We've got the highly acidic stomach acid. We've got no cecum. We cannot get our nutrition the same way that a chimpanzee or an orangutan or a gorilla does.
Fats.
That's it. But feel free. Let's book a debate. Let's come on live and we'll
come on this next Tuesday.
I've got loads of chalks and crayons that we can use to help explain this, and I'm sure we could do a great job. So bring it on. Let's do it. But for now, the grown-ups are talking.
They run on fats too. They don't run on carbohydrates. They may be carbohydrates, but they run on fats.
Exactly.
Every large mammal is on a high-fat ketogenic diet.
The size of a colon, pretty much.
Yeah. Whereas Mistress Lever, when you eat carbohydrates, all you do is fart. You don't actually absorb any of it because you don't have the correct digestive system.
And
I love these vegan debates.
That's what they do, don't they? They spend about 80% just chewing of their day, constantly chewing. They've got massive cecums, massive colons, and then they're nourished by fats. We can't do that, so we eat animal fats. That's how it works.
Exactly.
Never mind, I don't know. I don't know what to say to these people. We won't address this person again, but if they do happen to want to come on the live stream next week, give us any one of us an email. We'll send you the link. You can debate any one of us on this. It doesn't really matter which one of us, but we can have your own 5-10 minute segment. Have the the special seat, and we can probe you on your comments. The next question's about gallbladders and gallstones and starting carnivore. I think the general consensus is that we just kind of spread out the meals. We start lower fat and increase it over time. How long that takes depends on you as an individual. Depends on your liver health, your gallbladder, and just your start point. But that's what most people tend to say. Don't know if you guys have any different kind of experience or suggestions with gallbladders or gallstones.
Just a little bit quickly before anybody more intelligent than me pops up, but if you have actual gallstones in the gallbladder, obviously then if you eat high fat, you're going to get a gallbladder attack, and then the docs will tell you, never eat high fat. But obviously the gallbladder has got in that stage in the first place because it's not emptying properly, and so the sludge then becomes calcified. So I'm really not one for recommending pharmaceuticals, but there is something called ursodiol that does shrink down gallstones. There's a few other ways like chancropiedra and other things that people have shrunk them down with, maybe, I don't know. But ursodiol does work if you can find a doctor that will prescribe it, but usually they don't, because they know that they come back straight away with their dietary advice. And they get more money from the hospital for cutting out the gallbladder. So if you can find a doc that prescribes ursodiol and then get onto a very high-fat diet, then you won't have any more trouble with gallstones. In the short term, you might do if you do have them, because it can cause an attack, but it didn't cause the problem in the first place. it's sort of like training with a heavy bar, you know, a heavy Olympic bar when you've got a broken arm. It's not the fault of the bar. It's, you know, you have to wait for that to heal first. So shrink down the gallstones, and getting into a bit of woo-woo, when they get small enough, or to keep the gallbladder flowing, liver flushing. I keep laughing, even though, because it's like a sort of vegan idea from Andreas Moritz's books, the amazing liver and gallbladder flush and whatever. It really does work. So you can kind of clear it out with that. But in the unlikely event that you can get a gallstone stuck in the bile duct doing one of those flushes, or it is a potential danger, although I've never heard of it. But if you can shrink them down with ursodiol and then go on a high-fat diet, you'll be absolutely fine. But if you look, if you can Google or YouTube or whatever, no, Google, what's it called? Protein Power, how to get rid of gallstones without surgery. It will give you the details on ursodiol of how to get rid of that before you go on to a high-fat diet and risk an attack. Anybody else?
Not really. Yeah.
Right, sure.
A bad gallbladder and gallstone, sorry, is still far preferable to no gallbladder. So hang on to it if you can. So
yeah, absolutely. And we still have people, even with no gallbladders, who are okay on a carnivore diet. Sometimes they have some difficulty in transition with the bile production, but usually they're fine. And the body actually sometimes creates a pocket in the bile duct that sort of almost imitates a gallbladder. The body's very clever. Have you got anything on that, Richard? What's your view on that?
Well, in regards to the gallbladder, yeah, I think you guys have just covered it. It's super simple. You can live a carnivore lifestyle without the gallbladder. The liver will upregulate over time, just a case of reducing the meals, reducing the fat, probably eating more regularly. Within the carnivore sort of lifestyle, ketogenic lifestyle, we tend to get thrown into this situation of fasting. And we think that we need to be fasting to reach a state of autophagy. But being ketogenic puts us into that state regardless of fasting. We reap the benefits of autophagy, mitophagy, brown fat activation, lipolysis, insulin sensitivity, while being ketogenic. So we don't need to fast. And I think that's the fear in regards to living this lifestyle, consuming too much fat, too much protein in one go. But if we split the meals down, eat a little bit more often and less, then that can work incredibly well and allow the liver to upregulate its ability to produce the bile. Yeah, baby steps, super simple. How was that for a short answer?
Definitely.
That's one. Cheers. That makes sense.
I'm so sorry. 1 second. I can't help it. Ray Sleever again. Let's hope you don't like or love your family then, so they don't end up on your plates too, since that's what you think love means. I mean, that's fantastic, isn't it? So if we eat animals, suddenly we're cannibals. It's just incredible. Now, mate, listen. Our diet kills about one animal a year. Your diet kills absolutely millions from the crops and the crop deaths, and you waste them. I mean, we actually eat them, but you leave them lying in fields, gasping and choking and poisoned with pesticides. And what is accidental about pesticides? I love it. It's always the same thing from vegans, isn't it? I love these interludes tonight.
Also, it's just anti-human. Like, are you for humans or against humans? You know, this is what we're designed to eat. We thrive this way. Those kinds of diets hospitalize human beings. So it's a little bit misanthropic.
No, spot on.
An absolutely ungrateful parasite. What a cretin. So we've got a comment here from Bruce Wilk. He's a lovely chap, actually, by the way. I do know him personally. And he's left two super chats. I'm going to get us all to respond to them, basically, because we might have different takes on it. Basically, it's a two-part question. So, have the GI of a lion meat digests best, but simple sugars too? Fell off the wagon, ended up in a hospital with severe arthritic pain due to another autoimmune disease. High-fat carnivore diet and staying in ketosis keep my pain in check. Tips or advice appreciated. Now, the follow-up is clarification. GI of a lion because I lost my colon 7 years ago. Interesting. Permanent ileostomy from ulcerative colitis. All biological meds failed. I didn't find carnivore until after my surgery, unfortunately. We can all chime in on this one, I think, because we've all got experience in pain.
Britain.
But yeah, if Lee, if you start off talking about your experience and any sort of reduction in pain you might have had.
Well, I mean, I lost my colon 7 years ago, my whole colon to ulcerative colitis. So it's the same thing. I don't suffer with arthritis though, but I understand obviously they're both autoimmune issues. I do realize that, you know, if you've got arthritis, the best thing you can do if you're really, really in severe, you know, pain, stuff like that, fasting probably would be of benefit. Obviously, like you're saying, ketones, we're in that same state of autophagy and mitophagy, but you can just benefit through getting into a deeper level of that, you know, perhaps in a bad flare, or I don't know. I haven't got loads of experience in dealing with arthritis, but you're doing the right thing. You know, I don't know if you're consuming any kind of olive oils and things like that, but that some people, they eat a lot of meat and they still have olive oil and things like that in the diet. That would be against you if you've got an autoimmune disease, your polyunsaturated fats and things like that. I would say, you know, just make sure you're cooking in animal fats. That's it. And maybe practice fasting a little bit. But I would say, given time anyway, you're most likely going to get a lot better. That's it.
Sure, that's one. Phil, do you have a take on this one? I'm sure.
No,
Sure you got some experience.
No, spot on. Lee covered it. All autoimmune stuff really is the same issue, and it's got the same fix.
Yeah, I mean, the last time I spoke to this gentleman, he was quite concerned about like dropping a bit of weight, reducing inflammation, things like that. So I think that would be a lever definitely to pull. So in this kind of instance, I'd look at, as a body composition coach, trying to reduce body fat levels a little bit. Now, it depends obviously how much over your natural walking around weight you are. I believe this gentleman also does weightlifting as well. So he's pulling all the right levers, he's doing all the right things, but the pain just seems to be really high. I would personally look at intermittent dry fasting. So that might mean perhaps 18 hours a day, build up to it, don't do it straight away. Perhaps start a water fast first, you know, just drink water for a block of time each day, then evolve that into a dry fast. And that seems to be really, really useful at reducing inflammation. So that's something I might sometimes do if I've had a meal out of family. So it helps me clear my system quicker because I've got less going through the gut at once. So if your gut's emptier, it's in a better position to heal. So that's my take on it. And obviously, looking at the high-fat carnivore side of it, that's probably indicated as well, meaning we have more of our energy substrate through the form of fat, which is actually also lower in volume. So it means it's going to be less deleterious to your gut. Now, when you eat a diet which is much more protein, there's a lot more mass to take in. Because with protein, you have obviously the meat, you know, the meat is the protein. And you have a water portion of it as well. So all that has to go through your gut. Like if you're trying to like reduce binging and, you know, sort of eating the bad sort of things, then expand your gut all the time with drinking loads of water could also be a problem. So I'd look at it from multifactorial points. So the high fat carnivore, intermittent dry fasting, maybe a few supplements as well down the line. If you're dropping body fat, maybe some kind of antioxidant profile, protocol could be useful. Maybe a B complex as well if you're particularly stressed. That's what I personally look at, and people say, oh, why do you recommend that? You get all you need from the carnivore diet. Well, most people I speak to on the carnivore diet do take supplements, and they do seem to find a benefit. Now, with me saying that, I'm not saying, you know, you need to take them, but I'm saying they could be useful. How useful they are, I couldn't honestly really say. But I'd certainly look at some things as well. I mean, if you're dropping body fat, you're releasing toxins. You could be, you know, oxalate dumping as well down the line. So I'd look at that aspect of it as well. So using an electrolyte product such as Keto Pro electrolyte products, which is potassium citrate and other things like that. As shown, I've also got some here. So I do actually use them. I'm not an affiliate, guys. I would actually buy them regardless of if I got them or not. But I have bought a few myself anyway. But they're really good products. I'd look at that one as well. Outside of that, I mean, that's the thing I'd look at. It's just consistently doing the same thing day in, day out. Think of it like a powerlifting meet or a bodybuilding competition. You know, you're doing the same thing day in, day out, trying to get the result. You're inching closer every day towards that endpoint. So don't try and be perfect, just try to be consistent. And that 80% will do a lot of favors for you over that period of time. But they're the things I'd look at. So the water consumption, higher fat carnivore, intermittent dry fasting, maybe sprinkle in some useful supplements if you find it useful. And if your food intake is getting low to the point where you're thinking I'm a bit malnourished, especially if you're physically active. Did you, Ben, or Richard have a take on it at all?
Not for me.
Yeah, jumping on that quickly. Coffee, another contributing factor to pain, is contains a compound called acrylamide, which is a known neurotoxin, so possibly one to remove. I would maybe implement a full elimination protocol, go straight down to a lion diet, grass-fed beef and lamb, and reintroduce the things like eggs and cheese and milk if you are consuming them. Milk, even in an A2 form, can still cause intestinal permeability. Alcohol, obviously, we know can also, or I'm guessing you're not drinking alcohol. The casein still found in things like Greek yogurts and cheese could still be a contributing factor. The proteins in eggs can also be a contributing factor. Some people struggle with fish. This is why the lion diet is the elite elimination protocol. But what people tend to do is remove one thing out at a time. But when you take one away, you tend to eat more of the compounds that are left. And if you do have a reaction to one of those that are still in, then all you're doing is raising it from another while removing it from it. So you're not actually going to know if taking that compound out is of benefit. So take everything out and start from scratch. But coffee is a big contributing factor. And again, supplementation, yeah, as you rightly say, not a sales pitch, but electrolytes with potassium citrate. Coming back to what Lee was saying, elevated ketones, fantastic. This is why I use my exogenous ketones before night. It helps block inflammation. So I did a big run on the weekend in Chester, 10K, new to running. So I'm still suffering with some aches and pains, but I take things like exogenous ketones and maybe some C8 MCT occasionally to help with inflammation, because that's what beta hydroxybutyrate does. It blocks NLRP3 inflammasome. And I agree with what Lee said, removing olive oil. Olive oil is better than vegetable oils, but it's still detrimental comparative to saturated fats from animal proteins. And I think that's about it. I think we've covered probably everything there.
Yeah, loads of different angles we can take here, and there's probably a hierarchy as well, but I'll try and hit all of them. Yeah, what was that, Rich?
Sorry, one other thing. I was just looking at that question again there now, and I know that I was just clicking on any tips and advice. So basically, I mean, high-fat carnivore, stay on a ketogenic diet basically helps to keep my pain in check. Any tips or advice? So tips and advice for maintaining the lifestyle is understanding what causes us to fall off it. And it comes down to the neurotransmitters, particularly things like serotonin and dopamine, which we're hardwired to chase. If we don't get them through our diet naturally, through tyrosine and tryptophan, then we go chasing the sugary treats, which leave, so serotonin, for example, is left in the blood when we consume lots of sugar or a sugar compound, because insulin will pull all of the other amino acids out of the blood. It'll leave tryptophan there, ready for synthesis into serotonin, and that's what gives us this fix. So I know it sounds super stupid and simple, but not falling off the wagon allows you not to have to try to get back on it, if that makes any sense. And the reason I say that, I know that sounds really stupid, but next time you feel the need for a sugary treat or something, what we need to understand is these compounds, especially from plants, they block the cofactors involved: vitamin B3, vitamin B6, vitamin B12, B9, zinc, iron, magnesium, so on and so forth. So to create the neurotransmitters from tyrosine, tryptophan, and phenylalanine, we need the cofactors. The second you block the cofactors, we can't bake that cake or fry the steak in this case. The second you block those cofactors, that's what fuels our cravings for the sugary compounds. So not keeping anything in the house helps. I've got a 9-year-old little girl, so it is incredibly difficult not to have these compounds in the house. If I had my way, she would be strict carnivore. But yeah, talk for another day maybe. So I have to put things in place. And what I do is I put all of her sort of stuff in, and she doesn't eat a lot of sweets or chocolate, but, and other crap, which I wish she didn't. And if I had my way, she wouldn't. But yeah, that's a rant for another day. But what I do is I pop those things into one cupboard, and I know that is not mine. My things are in the fridge or the freezer. or the frying pan. And this cupboard is not for me. So I convinced myself that I'm not to access this cupboard, and therefore I don't get tempted. So yeah, some other tips and advice there. Just understanding that the second you fall off the wagon, how difficult it is to get back on, and understanding that those neurotransmitters are being blocked. Just reinforces maybe your ability to maintain the lifestyle. And again, I know that sounds stupid, but once you realize that, then it gives you the power to make those educated decisions.
Yeah, for sure. Thanks very much, Bruce, for your super chat as well. Again, just stay consistent, find ways around it, like Richard said. Put your food in your cupboard, and that's your cupboard. If it's not in your cupboard, it's not yours. So I kind of look at that myself. So I get quite possessive with my food. I'm in a fat loss phase right now, so I have my shelf in the fridge and my cupboard. Everything else isn't food. There's chocolate bars, half-eaten bananas, fruit yogurts, and crap in it. That is not mine. If I did what I eat in a day, like here's my shop, here's my fridge kind of thing, I'd just be showing you like one shelf. You'd be like chicken, beef, turkey, raw milk. Well, that's it, you know. So it's not very interesting, but keep it really simple. Now we've got a super chat, which is a joke, I think.
I'm hoping it's
a joke. Yeah, I know what it is, but what do you guys think it is? The answer.
the best breed of dog meat.
Well,
I mean,
I
if
don't
they mean
know,
the best brand of dog meat, then there isn't one, because it's just meat.
Yeah, it seems to be a bit confusing in the chat, doesn't it? Because everybody's
It's a sausage dog.
Yeah, it's just discussing which sort of dog to eat. Well, you know, most of them kibble fed now, aren't they? So they're very high fat, but that fat probably contains a load of toxins. So I don't know. You could probably best off just eating a neighbor, like Race Lever says, or a family member, rather than a kibble fed dog, I would have said.
Yeah, nice one. That was quite a good joke. I can tell everyone that one now. I'm very excited. Tell all my friends. We've already answered this one, haven't we? Yeah, let's get rid of that one. All right. Next question's from Landers, a loyal member and joiner of our channels. Any ideas why on the carnivore diet that triglycerides on the blood panel hasn't reduced in 6 months? Is it too much protein in the diet? Well, I would have thought it could be you're losing body fat. That's my take on it. I think Richard might have a good answer to this one. What do you think, Richard?
Yeah, look, it's one we don't see very often. My simple advice would be just keep on pushing forward. It doesn't happen very often, but it could be, as you rightly say. I don't think it's to do with the protein. I wonder whether Landers is living, and I know he is strict, but are there other compounds going in there in regards to maybe some fruit occasionally? But look, consistency is key. And I think that everyone I've worked with beyond 12 months, triglycerides come down an incredible amount. LDL goes up, which we know is protective and heals the body, so that's not a concern. Cholesterol in total goes up, HDL goes up. And the reason it does this is because we've removed the phytosterols, which artificially lower our cholesterol. Probably a talk for another day. But it's coffee. Yeah, coffee. So another contributing factor. This is why going strict carnivore or lion diet in regards to just beef and lamb is, in my opinion, preference. And again, potentially maybe a full elimination protocol required. But keep on pushing forward. It's read. And what are they, Landers? What are your triglycerides? If you have your triglycerides handy with your HDL and LDL, and you don't mind post them in the chat, and we'll take a look and we'll see what the conversion is from pattern A and pattern B, and we'll see what type of profile that your total cholesterol is.
Yeah, have a talk with Richard about that one, or book a consult with Coach Stephen. My take on it's probably different to one's. I personally don't care. I wouldn't care. I don't see the point of worrying about it. Because the thing is, even if it was somehow high and somehow could prove causality of some absolute disease, heart attack, stroke or something, then you have to think, well, what's better than what you're currently doing? Which kind of Richard said at the start, you know, what's better than what you're doing now? Okay, maybe you're eating meat, eggs, cheese. Okay, great. We'll get rid of the eggs and cheese, see what happens. That's just my 2 cents anyway. Does anyone else have any take on triglyceride stuff?
I think that's spot on. I think that if you're doing exactly what your ancestral diet is, and you know the closest to beef, lamb, salt, and water as you can get, if you've got some kind of issue, then whatever the body does, it's not working against you. And as Richard said, it's going to balance out in time. So just the best thing, I think, for high triglycerides, if you're on an ancestral diet, that I would say the best cure for that is to not go for blood tests.
Yeah.
How do you feel? How are you doing?
You took the words right out of my mouth, which is that was my answer to a consultation that I did with one of my clients, Rodolfo, last week. His cholesterol was 22, and I was really jealous. Obviously, he wasn't concerned. His partner or his wife was. So we went through his profile, and he had a fantastic profile. His doctor was trying to get him onto statins. To which that was my question. Well, how do you feel? The best I've ever felt, he said. Well, why take a pill just to reduce something that may not even be causing a problem for you in the first place? So how do you feel? I love it.
Yeah. And one other thing, just leading on from that, and also the point on coffee, is stress levels. Are you suffering kind of long-term chronic elevated cortisol? Because that can also have an influence on triglycerides, serum triglycerides. So maybe you just need to chill and stop worrying about numbers. Would be one thing that could help.
Yeah, get the right tests when you need to get the right tests. A lot of people get tests for the sake of testing. I don't see the point. I get tests for sake of testing mostly. I'm a bodybuilder. I'm a heavy person. I eat a lot of food, put my body through a lot of stress. So for me, it's useful to see inflammatory markers. Outside of that, yeah, I get my other stuff tested just because it comes up on the panel. But largely speaking, I don't really care about a lot of it because it doesn't seem to mean I'm unhealthy. All my blood lipids are within range, but so my brothers, so my dad. So what's the point in worrying about it? I'm otherwise healthy. So yeah, we've got a question here, which yeah, sorry, Ben.
Yeah, I just think Anthony Chafee says he's never measured his ketones in his life. He eats the meat, his body, entrusts his body to do the rest.
Yeah, I did it once out of curiosity, a few times actually. So I did it high fat carnivore and lower fat. I guess what I found was my ketones was 0.5 to 1, and I got them up to about 4.5, 5. I felt best at 0.5 to 1, but then I know people that feel best at 4.5, 5, or even higher. So you're pissing in the wind trying to work out what optimal is, I think.
It is, and it's different for everyone, and we see that different levels work differently for different people, especially with athletic performance, fighting cancers, and so on and so forth. But the interesting thing with the ketones is that the longer you live in the lifestyle, the lower they will become. Initially, we lose or waste ketones in the form of acetone and acetoacetate through our breath and through our urine. As we adapt, our body's preference beta-hydroxybutyrate. As it does this, the wasted ketones come down, and over time, even beta-hydroxybutyrate in the blood becomes less and less. So even then, those ranges are always changing. And if I were to test my ketones at any given time, I'm probably below 0.5, which is why people say that being carnivore isn't a ketogenic state. But it is. My body is being fueled by ketones. That range or that level is a lot lower than many realize once you become adapted. But yeah, don't go chasing the numbers. How comes back to what Phil said. How do you feel?
Absolutely. We've got a super chat here, which might be a good question actually for Lee for sure. So, due to the current economic situation, which is not good, guys, I have to work night shifts for extra pay. When should I eat, and what can reduce the damage this is doing?
Oh, that's a tough one because you're doing something that's kind of a little bit against your health anyway. I actually have questioned this. Is it best to eat, anyway, just the moment you get up? Is it perhaps best to just get a meal in and then go and do your shift? I don't know. Situation, I have to work night shifts for extra pay. When should I eat? Yeah, I mean, I'd probably eat first thing, to be honest with you. That's just me. I don't know if there's any sort of science going in favor of eating during or after. I'm not sure, really. I'll leave that to you guys if you know anything about that.
Yeah, Phil's got a take on it. I know that.
Well, if you look at the people who work night shifts and the enormous rates of breast cancer, for example, among women who work night shifts, and people forget about this whole circadian thing and think it's all about diet. If you have to do it, absolutely have to, short term, well, I can't argue with that. It's easy for me to say don't do it, but I think that is really as soon as you can get out of that, please do it, because the whole business of breaking the circadian cycle, the whole planet runs on light. I have a corn snake. I have a couple of snakes in there. One of them doesn't bother, but the corn snake goes mad in the spring. It's all to do with light cycles, and he won't eat for about 3 months, and he just suddenly starts racing around his tank, whereas he just doesn't move for the rest of the year and eats well, won't eat anything. Light cycles are so important. Even inside and in that tank, he can see what the light cycles are. And it controls everything. It controls when the animals breed. It controls when all the buds come out and the trees bloom and the grass comes up. And so to say that light cycles are not important is crazy. Battery chickens, they just keep the lights on all night, so they'll lay around the clock, and they're expendable. They die, they get sick and whatever, but they get eggs around the clock. So it is incredibly important to keep those light cycles. If you can't, short term, at least please wear some blue blockers, whatever, when you're at work. Try and keep a lot of that blue light out of your eyes. Eat when you're hungry, whenever that is. It's just such an unnatural rhythm that the sooner you can get out of it, the better. It's very difficult to say that you're going to be perfectly healthy while you're doing that, because there's light going in your eyes at night that's telling your body that it's midday, and repeatedly, over and over and over. And this will really mess about the whole circadian rhythm. And it's just as important for the mitochondrial health as diet is, at least. So eat when you're hungry and whatever. Go for it then. Yeah.
Controversial idea, if you've got to do this, which is maybe to try and I've never heard of this. I've just pulled this out my arse. Okay, so just disclaimer there, is to get red light at the start of your day. Right, try and get the UV and blue light in the middle of your day, and red light again at the end before you go to sleep, and actually just try and trick your body into thinking the night is actually day. I don't know about that. I don't know if anyone's tried it, but it might be a fun experiment. Rather than going to work, at dusk or whatever, and then just going straight into white and blue light. It's a thought.
Yeah, I can get behind that for sure. I would look at biphasical sleep. I would look at melatonin supplementation. I would look at leptin reset, but that means you'd be eating your big meal after your sleep, whenever that is. So whenever you wake up, so it'll be probably before work, I imagine. What else? More omega-3 for sure. Better conductivity with light. Better for the digestive system, the gut, because your gut will not heal properly if you don't sleep at night. It will be impaired to some degree. So there's no way around it. Like the guys said, you have to to get optimal results, you can't get around sleeping, when it's daytime. But I say biphasical sleep so that you can get some sunlight during that middle gap. I say melatonin because it is pretty much what it's used for, prescribed for. And it is a useful hormone, which is in a tablet form. And I work quite a lot actually with paramedics, shift workers, and people that do funny hours. They're the things I recommend to them, and they're the things that seem to be helpful. The blue blocking glasses as well, perhaps towards the end of your shift maybe. You can get yellow ones as well. They won't be as effective, but they'll give you more clarity for sight. So if you're typing away, you're using a form, using a computer, something, that'll be useful. So you can get, I think they call it dusk blue blocker glasses. They're not the same, but they'll block out some of the blue light. Just not the same exact frequency. Getting out sunlight as much as humanly possible during the time that it is daytime, getting grounding out at night 30 quid, 40 quid. My red light and near infrared panel that I've got next to me, it's not turned on right now, but I actually use that after the gym, and I find it has a very calming effect. I'll also close my curtains so my room's dark, but I just have exclusively red light. That's really useful for my recovery. Amazingly useful. Like, I rate it much higher than having a warm bath sort of thing. So, it's high on my priority list. And none of those things are particularly expensive. The blue blocking glasses, mine are in the link below in my YouTube channel description, and they're about 15 quid. The red light panel works. It's real. It emits heat, emits red light at the right frequency, and that was about £45. It wasn't 400 quid that people spend online. You're paying for the brand name. Other things, melatonin, it depends what country you're at. It may be a legality issue, but if you can get it, it is quite a cheap supplement to use. There are things I'd look at doing. Yeah, I mean, Ben did touch on a really good point. The red light, if you can get it, is probably the main hack you can look at. Also the omega-3 side of it as well. So plenty of oily fish and things like that will help your detoxification pathways, which will never be optimized if you're not sleeping at night, ever. So that's how I would hack around it, basically. But does anyone else have any sort of thoughts on it at all?
I think you've covered everything there, Jonathan. Just to add about the omega-3s, which ties on to another comment that I saw earlier about krill oil. I don't know if it's tagged as a question, so I don't know if it's going to come up. But all oils oxidize. So get your omega-3s, as Jonathan says, from your oily fish, salmon, sardines, mackerel. I think mackerel is probably one of the best sources. But omega-3s are found in animal proteins like beef anyway, lower quantities. But if you eat lots of beef, then you're going to get more of the omega-3s. But just don't supplement with them or the krill oil for that matter. Yeah,
for sure. Makes perfect sense. I say all that stuff because I've looked at like 100 hours of Dr. Jack Cruise's stuff. And there's someone that is, a surgeon working funny hours at night, staring at blue light all day. If anyone's going to know it, it's going to be him. So I'd probably trust what he says. And the articles that he sort of cites do seem to make sense to me, at least. Now, next question is a very good one from my friend Paul. Can you build and maintain muscle on a vegan diet? Yeah. What do you guys think?
Yeah, if you take steroids.
Or supplement with meat.
Look, it's... Of course you can. People do it all the time, don't they? They build muscle on a vegan diet. But is it optimal? Well, no, it's not. And for a number of reasons. One, the protein is far lower quality, as Jonathan will tell you. Animal proteins contain leucine. It's leucine that activates mTOR. We need around 3 grams of leucine to activate mTOR to maximize muscle protein synthesis.
Richard, mTOR kills you almost immediately,
but only through IGF-1. So it's the IGF-1
which is proliferated from sugar.
This is what they miss, right? This is what they miss. Yeah.
But look, it's when we consume vegetables, we're consuming phytic acid and lectins, amongst other compounds, which are blocking the absorption of many of the nutrients that we consume. Phytic acid blocks the absorption of zinc, iron, and magnesium by as much as 100%. Zinc is essential for the production of testosterone. Testosterone we need to build muscle. Ergo, why would you consume a plant-based compound which is going to block the absorption of an essential nutrient that you need in order to build muscle? And it isn't just enough to eat a compound or a protein shake that contains the protein, because if you are consuming the vegetables or plant compounds around it, that is enough to block that absorption. And I repeat, as much as 100%. So yes, you can, but it's certainly not optimal. I think we could probably go on in a lot more detail in regards to the answers to that question for probably a whole show. But that's my short answer. Yes, you can, but it's definitely not optimal.
I'd say if you look at the people who are bodybuilders or whatever who claim to be vegan, they're quite often the ones who have just built muscle on a regular diet, and then they've seen some ridiculous vegan propaganda film, and they've managed to maintain the muscle for a little while, saying, "Oh, look, I'm vegan," and then they shout about it, and then when they fail and they stop going vegan, then they don't shout about it too much because it's embarrassing. And if you look, for example, at the lists of the people who are in the Game Changers movie, who now have completely failed on that diet. Their performance has gone down. They're injured. They've retired. Everything's gone wrong. You can see how appalling it is long term. And my friend Tim Sheaf, who had some sort of contribution to some of the early things like, I don't know, forks over knives or cowspiracy or something like that. And then he asked for his contribution to be taken out of Game Changers, because by then veganism had ruined his health. So, you know, it's all a bit of smoke and mirrors. And mad as Sverrier is on his channel, have a look at his video about the bodybuilding, the vegan bodybuilder myth. It's brilliant. He's brutal, but he's spot on.
Yeah, for sure. I mean,
Yeah.
obviously Richard said, yeah, Karen.
Just to back up what Richard was saying about the anti-nutrients, really, really interesting study. We got 3 groups of people. They were all given fresh oysters, right? One had only oysters. The second group had the same amount of oysters, plus they were given black beans. The other group was given the same amount of oysters, plus they were given corn tortillas. The first group, their blood serum zinc levels went up peaked at plus 140 nanograms per deciliter, right? The group that got the oysters and the black beans peaked at plus 40 nanograms per deciliter, right? And the third group that had the oysters plus the corn tortillas managed only an increase of 5 nanograms per deciliter. So about 4% of what the people who didn't have the tortillas. So that is just slap around. And this is human interventional trial. Beautiful.
For sure, yeah. I mean, my case study, my anecdote, for what it's worth, I've done it both ways. I've done bodybuilding both ways, and I've done both ways for a long period of time. So I did the standard Western bro diet, chicken, broccoli, rice, the odd pizza here and there, Haribo, a lot of Haribo, for about 12 years, 11 years. And I got to a certain level of muscularity. It did work. I obviously had a high protein take, was eating chicken, beef like that, stuff like that, eggs, you know. My fat-free mass index got to 88 kilograms at maximum. So meaning all the muscle mass on my body, the bone mass and the organs on my body, if you isolated them using a digital body fat scale, body fat caliper scale and a bioimpedance scale, it worked out to be, I think it's at 88 kilograms. Now, last summer, I got that number to 91 kilograms and I was leaner. So it tells me the carnivore diet is actually better. Now, why do I say, oh, I was 3 kilograms better? The thing is, I was much healthier because of the carnivore diet. So I rested better, I recovered better. My diet was better, our sleep was better, everything was better overall. So all that hard training I was putting to the gym was put to more use. Now, I'm saying it from a position where I was already advanced in bodybuilding, but then I took a step up. Now, 3 kilograms, for anyone that's wondering, is not a significant amount of muscle mass for someone at 6'1". But for someone that was doing it for so long, that extra level up is quite substantial. It's about 6-7 pounds, guys. So that tells me, yeah, it is actually better to build muscle on a carnivore diet. Now, Ben and I have a discussion before when it comes to powerlifters and strongman. I think there is a requirement to eat more carbohydrates, whether it be rice or simple sugars, in a strongman competition, because you need the body weight. Now, bodybuilding is different to powerlifting, strongman. You know, you're trying to get the most amount of muscle in your body relative to your body fat sort of thing. So it's a completely different endeavor. But yeah, that's my take on it. It does seem to be better overall for muscle growth. Lee, did you have any takes on it at all? It's quite a good question.
Not really in any big kind of way, but at the end of the day, you're a human, and whether you're trying to build muscle, you should be eating human compatible food. You want to be as healthy as you can while you're pursuing this whole building muscle thing. So to me, not only is it not optimal if you're not eating what we're made out of, you know, fats, the proteins. That's the best biological way to get the nutrition in required for everything that needs to happen. But also, if you want to be healthy, that's the best way to go about it. So to try and build muscle on a bit of plant-based diet not only is not optimal, but it's not good for your health. Like, it's just inflammatory, and it's not going to fare well long term as well. You know, it's not going to fare well on your joints. You're already going against yourself in some ways, depending on how you work out and how you practice. But yeah, obviously the proper human diet is going to be the way forward for absolutely everything, because we're humans. So that's it.
Nice one. Cheers for your input. We've got a question about this. May be the last question, guys. Depends how everyone else is feeling. And apologies earlier, by the way. It was actually me who's messing around, banging my chair and stuff. I've got one of those chairs that wobbles a lot, it's squeaky. My microphone goes down to 20 hertz, so it picks up a pinprick in about 4 rooms away. And if I breathe too heavy, my microphone's too close to me, it is too loud. So please let me know in the chat, as Ben has and a few others have, if I'm too noisy. I could just mute myself easily, and I'll obviously just do that. But yeah, the question is on supplements on carnivore. What's your take and why? Richard, you take supplements. What'd you take and why?
Yeah, again, just to reiterate what I own a supplement company, but technically the supplements that I make are classed as foods, things like electrolytes, exogenous ketones. Do you need them? They're not essential. I believe that you can thrive living a ketogenic carnivore lifestyle purely on the food that we eat, and that is, as we just mentioned there, proteins and fats makes up every cell in the body. Do I take supplements if you're going to put that in? Yes, I use electrolytes for a number of reasons. Every cell in the body needs sodium, potassium. The food that we consume today is heavily devoid of these essential nutrients. Going back to Stone Age man, we would have consumed around 15,000 milligrams of potassium each day. We do not consume anywhere near that today. So we don't. The way that we would have caught and killed our animals, we would have stripped the animals. The meat would have been thrown on the floor, picked up all sorts of salts. It would have been stored on rocks. We would have crushed the bones up and eaten all the bone marrow. We would have eaten the cartilage, which is what I do. So when I eat chicken, I eat all of the cartilage right on the end. That's where the electrolytes are, and that's where the collagen is, incredibly nutrient dense, but everybody else throws that away. The stringy bits that's in your steak, these are all the pieces that are stuck to the bone that contain all of these nutrients. If you're not consuming them, then there may be a requirement to put supplementation of potassium, sodium, magnesium in. Nature provides us with a perfect ratio. It's high in potassium, and then it's around 4 times higher than sodium. Then we drop right down to magnesium, and below that again is calcium. But we do everything backwards because we take it in. We think that we know best as man. We supplement with calcium, but there's only 2 things in nature that comes high in calcium, and that's milk, mother's breast milk, and an egg, which is designed to give life to something. We shouldn't be drinking milk in high quantities, at least past the age of infancy. And eggs, again, I eat lots of eggs, but they do contain around 25 to 30 milligrams of calcium per egg. Studies show that elevated amounts of, or excessive amounts of calcium, around 700 milligrams, both dietary and supplementation, can cause cardiovascular issues, increased risk of over 15%. This is why I eat eggs. I think they're highly nutrient dense, but I limit the amount of eggs. I eat about 6 a day, but I make sure I limit the amount of cheese and milk, so on and so forth, to keep this ratio about right. Because the thing with excess calcium is it depletes magnesium, and it also depletes potassium. And what we do when we live in a carnivore lifestyle, we supplement with sodium. Because insulin's dropped, it signaled the kidneys to release the sodium from the 4 points and the nephrons in the kidneys. Now we're suffering with keto flu. So we salt our meals with rock salts, which is fantastic. But excess sodium depletes potassium. So now we need the requirement again to bump this potassium back up. This is why I take my electrolytes. It just replaces that ratio correctly. Other supplements that I use, the exogenous ketones, I use the C8 oil. I do create lots of other supplements in regards to bars, which are designed for the low carb ketogenic market, but these are alternatives for people to use. Citrulline malate I supplement with for increased nitric oxide. That helps massively with athletic performance. If I'm on a muscle building sort of phase, which I'm not anymore, I don't compete. As you can see, I'm half the size that I once was. Leucine, I used to supplement with leucine before eating a meal. That I believe did help massively in regards to for me building, healing and repairing. Beyond that, no, I don't supplement with anything. I'm not against it. Again, as we said earlier, if there is a deficiency, then supplements are fantastic, but get them from natural sources. Don't go for synthetic compounds which are made from vegetables and fruits. We need real compounds which come from animal proteins.
Yeah. Do any of you guys take any?
Yeah, can I just jump in a sec on this one? Because there's one from the easily pronounceable or something here, and it says, will I need to supplement with multivitamins, especially with vitamin C, if I only eat steak every day? Yeah, no, you won't, because vitamin C competes for the same pathway as carbohydrates. So that's why nature gives us more vitamin C in things like berries and stuff, because it knows that when we get the sugars in, we're going to need some more vitamin C. Even the old ship's captains knew that if you had fresh meat, you could not only prevent scurvy, but cure it. And they got scurvy because they were eating dried, you know, the sailors on those old ships, they got scurvy because they were eating dried meat and ship's biscuits. So they were getting no particular vitamin C from the meat, and they were eating carbohydrates with no vitamin C as well. And so they got scurvy. But you didn't need limes, you didn't need lemons, you just needed fresh meat. The Inuit don't get scurvy, nothing like that. Nothing happens. I'm 9 years carnivore. I've not supplemented with vitamin C. I would have been dead with scurvy 8.5 years ago, I would have thought. And I've never heard of a carnivore getting scurvy. So, you know, if maybe they eat too many carbs with it or something that doesn't have sort of inappropriate carbs, they might get some sort of vitamin C deficiency, some subclinical issue, as our friend Elliot Overton often deals with, but you're not going to get scurvy. Also, supplements can often contain all sorts of fillers that keep the gut leaky. So when you're trying to heal the gut, if you've got some kind of autoimmune condition, then really that is your first priority. So don't be taking anything while you're trying to heal the gut, and then go and talk to some specialist like Elliot Overton or like Richard here, who understands about supplements that don't have too many fillers in and won't ruin your gut, and exactly why you might need them down the line to give yourself a bit of a boost. But basically, no, you know, we didn't have we didn't sit there and we get a kill, you know, we get a mammoth in the cave and sitting there thinking, do you think I need a bit of vitamin C here? No, it didn't happen.
Yeah, I'll jump in quickly. My most popular supplement is sea salt. Other than that, sometimes Lugol's iodine, not as much now. I'm not drinking coffee. Sometimes vitamin B complex, sometimes vitamin D3, just because I've got them to finish off. So I've been taking that over the winter. And then, you know, I'll experiment with some stuff. I mean, I'm taking the stem cell trigger one as well from Cerule, and I've been trying some methylene blue as well. The only other one probably that I will take regularly, borax, a weak borax solution too, because again, a lot of our soils are simply depleted in that, and it's you know, you need it for good bones and good joints. And the only other thing is, it sounds like a lot, doesn't it? But these aren't regular mainstays of my regime at all. Is pine pollen tincture that I make myself, because I had a vasectomy nearly 18 years ago. So I take that to boost my testosterone, and that's it.
Fair, yeah. I take a number of different supplements, guys. We've got a different experience, you guys, completely. But my background is a bit similar to Richard's in a sense. So I managed a health food shop, and I worked in Holland and Barrett for about 2 or 3 years. In that time, I saw people find some things useful, like it changed their life, some things not so useful. The most popular supplements that were sold and repeatedly bought were always vitamin D, magnesium, a B complex, and obviously salt, stuff like that. And actually omega-3. I'm a bit sketchy as well about the omega-3, just because the quality of it is quite often crap. There are a couple of brands out there that are good quality, that aren't oxidized and rancid as hell. I've tested them on myself for my blood, and I've used them for extensive periods of time of 6 months plus in some cases. There's 2 brands that I would recommend that do seem to be fine. One is Wiley's Peak EPA, and the other one is Barefoot Nutrition. I think it's just omega-3. They come from small oily fish, so low in toxicity. The only problem with those is they're not tested for aldehydes. How much could they have? I don't know. But I've been using them for a longer period of time, and I seem to notice a benefit when using them. I tend to use more in the winter months. Again, it helps you absorb more vitamin D effectively. That's kind of it in a nutshell. Outside of that, I'm using a B complex at the moment, half a tablet per day. I also use a mega dose of vitamin C. I was going to wonder, oh, why do you need to add that? You don't eat carbs. There's a good reason. I also use a liquid zinc product, which is effectively zinc sulfate, I think, in pretty much a purified water solution. The reason why I'm doing that is because I've suffered with pretty intense bouts of mononucleosis, Epstein-Barr virus, and HSV1. My life is pretty miserable if I don't use them. So I use them for periods of time to help get over something. If I'm stressed out, which is quite often, being autistic and very special, then yeah, they're pretty useful things to me. So that's what I'm finding. Now, I'm not saying to people you need to try these things or use them, but they're useful in a naturopathic approach, in that you cycle them in, then you don't use them, then maybe use them again. I don't seem to notice a negative effect from them, but what I will say is I've been using for the past year or so 2 acyclovir tablets per day. I've been doing this protocol now for about a month, and I'm now down to half a tablet per day. So whatever I'm doing as the intervention is clearly working, because I've been doing the same thing for a long period of time. As a bodybuilder, as Richard was back in the day, I live the same day every day. My day is nearly the same every single. I do the same thing day in, day out, so I can work out what isn't working quite easily. It seems to be those things are particularly useful for me. Now, obviously, there's different elements someone could have, so there's going to be a different kind of supplement protocol for different people. There's even different herbs that are quite useful, but largely speaking, the things I might recommend to a lot of people are things like taurine, vitamin D, magnesium, and if someone wants to speed things up in terms of like oxalate dumping or help break them down, at least maybe potassium citrate or electrolyte kind of product like Richard's Keto Pro. So yeah, there's some that are useful. Generally, they tend to be a vitamin, a mineral, or an amino acid in isolation in a specific form at a specific dose, relevant to your size, body weight, and stage of whatever you're trying to tackle. But if you're otherwise healthy and there's nothing wrong with you, you don't need them. But like Richard said, if you're a performance athlete, maybe some MCTs could be useful, maybe some BHB could be useful. So they might give you a few more percentage points in that kind of sense. But you weigh it out yourself. If you're sacrificing good quality food, animal food, but then you're buying McDonald's and French fries, and you're trying to take B complex and wasting money there, you're looking at the wrong thing. I think we could probably all agree with that. But Lee, do you take any supplements at all? I know I've asked you like a week ago, but what's your take?
I haven't honestly taken a single supplement in 20 months or wherever I am on the carnivore diet. I eat very close to about a kilo of red meat a day. I add a couple of raw egg yolks, and I have usually a cup of bone broth. And I've worked it out. I seem to be getting the minimum of everything we're supposed to get, and I feel fine. I'm actually supposed to be one of those at higher risk of regulating electrolytes without a colon, because I don't get that reuptake of water and sodium, things like that. But I don't seem to struggle. So I did have a couple of cramps in the early stages, but just persisting with things, I don't seem to have any issues. And so I think if ideally I could have a large cup of bone broth in the fridge always, that would give me a little bit more confidence long term. It's quite difficult because obviously I have certain meals in the slow cooker. I then stick all the bones back in, but sometimes, you keep these going for 3 days and then it's gone, and then you must have to quickly get something back in there again to have 3 days while you're drinking this stuff, to then have the next stuff coming in, to always have something in stock. But I mean, usually I feel like, I feel good, and I think I'm doing the right kind of thing, so maybe down the line it will change, but at the moment it's not broken, so I'm not going to try and fix anything.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, health is a moving target, guys. So there'll be one day when I don't take any of these things, hopefully. And that's the goal. The goal isn't to take them because I think it makes it better. The goal is to not need to take them. They're supplements after all. So, yeah, are you guys ready to wrap up, or do you want to do one or two more? I don't mind.
One thing really quickly, we kindly asked Landers to pop in his cholesterol profile. So he's putting in his serum HDL is 1.4, LDL 7.1, triglycerides 1.26. So that gives him a triglyceride to HDL ratio of 0.9, which is incredible. So, you're worrying about elevated triglycerides over nothing. Ideally, we look at numbers. We want triglycerides lower, but the ratio is fantastic. 0.5 would be incredible, but 0.9 is incredibly healthy. So, yeah, I mean, that would tell me that your LDL is predominantly Part A. Therefore, nothing to worry about. So worrying about, again, coming to what Jonathan said, we're looking at reducing something that maybe doesn't need reducing.
Interesting. Yeah. Yeah, thanks for taking that. We're going to wrap up there, guys. Thank you very much for joining. So a heads up, just in case you weren't here at the start, check out Phil and Ben's Big Fat Challenge event, and I'll put the thing up on the screen if I can find it. The code is for that GB Carnivore, capital letters. That gives you £50 off the event, and it is the bigfatchallenge.com, so check that out for the event. Otherwise, look out for our channels, like, subscribe to all our stuff, leave comments below, be friendly, be nice, and see you soon.